Now, early in the morning like this, it's always nice to look in a laundromat and see what's dried up, how the parts are coming. We've got a ton of work here. Now, some of the parts are ready to bring inside, and then we can start to get a plan going of what we want to do today. So when you have two projects ongoing at the same time, that workbench always gets busy, and it's busy right now. Now, taking off the back masking on these parts, obviously a very simple job, but I still want to be careful I don't rip anything or smudge anything. And I always have appreciated what I learned from Walt Prey about the tinfoil back masking. So now our part, the back masking is off. This 1/8" tape stays here. But now the beautiful part about doing it this way, when I have the date, and it's not a painting day today, to do the yellow, all I need to do is run a piece of tin foil or back masking down the middle. I can then do my yellow that's going to match both sides, and the next day pull the back masking. I can see what this paint job is going to look like in real life. The next thing I'll do pretty much the same thing with the fairing, and then I'll still have a little bit of time left today. In my life, every day is a totally different entity. I don't have a Groundhog Day life where I can really predict with any certainty what's going to happen. And this day started out to be a day I thought I'd have the whole day to work in the shop, and I've just been informed by the boss it will be cut short, which because I'm in labor and not in management, that happens more than you think it does. But anyway, I love tinfoil. I talk about something that's been handy to have since the first day we made this. There's really been a big help in handling this and painting it, and obviously all parts of this job. I really like that. This is a really, I think it's an attractive fairing, and this is really important to me. How that's going to look. The fender underneath it. Now we've left on, because this piece of 1/8" tape, of course, is going to be the line to define the yellow. Now, because today is not a paintable day, no way we're going to get to check the yellow, but there's other projects I'm going to work on here in the shop. So I'm trying to think what I can do here, because the day has been cut short unexpectedly, but I do have about an hour left, and I cannot paint outside today. I guess I'm going to start on doing the reinforcements on this. That would be a really productive way. Get that out of the way anyway. Looking at this part and trying to evaluate it, because I know this is going to be more than a one-day job, two-day job. I'm looking around at all of the areas where this part bolts in. Let me get rid of that. There's some really areas that have to be repaired down there. So the first thing is I'll get out the machine sander, roughen up and clean up the paint in the areas that have to be reinforced with carbon or glass. And I know from looking at this panel, see, this is like an oil can here. So I know eventually I want to have, because of the other piece, I want to have a big extra piece of fiberglass or carbon in there. So once I notice this is going to be a predictable job, very similar to the first one, but if I don't do this, again, you can imagine how many hours I've already got into the other part, to risk that this would not be as good as I could make it, just be crazy. Now the way I restore and make repairs on this, I look for the most obvious crack. You can see this is cracked right here. This is a 30-year-old motorcycle, 28-year-old, whatever it is. And like me, it's falling apart. So I'm spreading that crack. By the way, our friend Ron, hey Ron, I hope you're paying attention here. He had asked me for more details on doing some of these repairs with CA. Now for people that are not familiar with CA, I'll just go over this again. CA is really cyanoacrylate, and it's actually made as a byproduct of the space shuttle program. Its derivative comes from the space shuttle, and you may know it as, in fact, here's a crack right here. I'm just fixing cosmetic cracks now, because all the real repairs are going to go on the back side of this. So any repair you have a crack, sand off as much of the finish as you can. Once the finish is off, open the crack up. CA is capillary. Capillary means it penetrates in and then gets a bond. Now that's a lot stronger now. And if I look at the back, or I see where it's cracked in the back, that crack of course goes right through. So what I'll do is I'll just take some of my CA. And we know if I do this, some of this glue is going to work its way, I call it glue. It's going to work its way right down in there. Now, we're obviously going to reinforce this also. So another trick, just another trick that's worth its weight in gold. We're going to put some reinforcement along here. I've got most of the paint sanded off. You can just put a layer of thin CA on there. Take a paper towel and never stop it. That also, if there's a crack you haven't seen, it'll get down in there and repair it. So that in itself is a tip worth its weight in gold, but here's an even better one. We're gonna reinforce this whole front because it's cracked in 3 or 4 different areas. I mean, you gotta realize this bike has had, we call it a rough service life. It's been track biked, it's been crashed, it's been dumped. And that's before we even got it. Try to do is use up scraps from previous jobs. Doesn't matter if it's e-glass or carbon. Make a little patch. We go right over the hole. It doesn't matter. Let me just get this. I want to show this if I can. Put plenty of thin CA down. Doesn't have to be pretty, doesn't have to be accurate. Put some more thin CA on top of it. Try to get it to lay down flat a little bit if you can. Now it's just a question of letting that dry. And once that's roughly sanded just a little bit, a little more thin CA, hold your breath, because when it kicks off it does tend to have an eye irritant effect. Don't stop that or it'll stay in place. So Ron, I hope that gives you some food for thought. Now you can tell how quick that dried. All you need to do, you want to make it pretty, now I'll do that to all of the parts that need reinforcement. There's 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, there's 9, 10 of them. No sense doing them. They're all going to be very similar to that. Then when we do the cosmetic work on the other side, we'll burn that hole through with a Dremel tool. Now it's definitely a messy job to do this, but boy does it add insurance that you're not going to have a problem in the future. And boy, to put all that work into these parts, and I have seen so many of these fairings, just especially the track day ones. Anyway, the next step on this is to sand it all down, put another coat of CA on it. So after machine sanding, we're ready for the final piece. Is we're going to epoxy in a piece right over here where this is the weakest spot, and this is where all the paint had its cracking issue. It's like an oil can. Again, of course, these parts are very thin. And I may even put another little piece of reinforcement up here because this is a really critical spot. That's where it always seems to rub on the radiator there. Now there's not much left from our last roll of carbon fiber. We're going to have to get some more here sooner or later, but I need to make one piece, I go right in there and epoxy it in. Now this is the epoxy that we use on this project and on other restoration projects. It's a super strong resin, and this is not the resin you buy in Home Depot. This is professional grade stuff. Seems like a lot of work. When you see it in real time, it is a lot of work. We're talking about it looks like a lot of work. But anyway, I think that really is our insurance policy, that when this panel is done, and of course, if you've been following along here, and I hope Ron has been following along, you know how much time we put into that panel, and I sure don't want to see that crack. And the restoration of the fender and the fairing restoration, that was just an unbelievable amount of work. So this part is no exception. Now, we're not going to be able to do anything else today. It's basically not a painting day, and we have some family stuff to take care of. But this was an important thing. This is one step forward, you know, one small step for mankind, one small step for the FZR. So anyway, that is good information. That is good resin. And as I see it now for the really the first time with the stripe revealed like that, I am really excited about it. I think that is a real slick looking fairing. We get that yellow paint tested as soon as we get a paintable day. I'm pretty excited about it. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed sharing the video, sharing the information. Every day we try to fill up the workbench with new parts, new stuff we're working on, and try to share it with the people that share our passion for motorcycling. So again, thanks for watching.